Hi, I'm Shannon with Taste of Home, and today I'm going to show you how to cook and prepare a deconstructed turkey. So the reason that you would want to break down your turkey or deconstruct it is so that you can cook the parts separately. Maybe your oven is going to be full of Thanksgiving sides and you don't want to have to fit a giant turkey in there. You could cut it apart and put the legs in the slow cooker and braise them. You could put the turkey breast in the Instant Pot. If your family only likes white meat or dark meat, you could just make that and not make the other parts. It gives you so much more flexibility when you deconstruct it versus cooking the whole bird. So, before we get started, let me show you some of the equipment that you're going to need. The first thing you want is a nice stable cutting board. After that, a chef's knife or a nice heavy knife, a paring knife or a small knife for detail work, and some nice heavy poultry shears. So these are spring loaded so you don't have to work too hard. And they also have this notch cut out here that makes it very easy to cut through the bones. When it comes to cooking the turkey, we're going to use a roasting pan with a rack, and then you have your options with an instant read thermometer where you can check the temperature of the bird as it is cooking, or this is an alarm thermometer where you would actually insert a probe into the meat, into the thickest part, not touching a bone, set the desired temperature for doneness, and then an alarm will sound when you have reached that. That way you don't have to worry about over or undercooking your turkey. So the first thing I'm gonna do is remove the wings from the turkey. To do that, I'm actually gonna flip it over so that it is breast side down on my cutting board. Now, you wanna kind of feel for the joints. You can kind of feel the movement as you wiggle the wing back and forth. Then you wanna take a large knife, like a chef's knife, and cut slowly until you start to see some of the bone. So as you wiggle it, you can tell where the joint separates, and you want to go right between the joint, and it separates pretty easily. Just like that. Next, flip the bird again so that you can easily access the legs. You are going to want to cut through this area here between the breast and the leg. So you're only cutting through the skin at first. Now that you can see a little bit better, work around the top of the drumstick. Now you're going to need a little bit of force, but you're going to want to separate the two until you hear a pop. Now I can see the hip joint, and this is where I'm going to want to finish separating the pieces. The next step is to remove the spine from the breast. So you can use your knife or your kitchen shears for this step as you need to adjust. I'm going to start with my knife. So cut along the spine at the ribs. With these heavy shears, it should be pretty easy. And then similar to the hip, I'm just going to wait until I hear a pop. Now that we have just our breast, we have a nice stable surface, we're going to remove some of this excess skin and the wishbone. So we just want enough skin to cover the meat while it's cooking so it doesn't dry out. So all of this extra and the extra fat, we're just going to cut off. So now we have enough to cover the breast meat, but we've gotten rid of a lot of the excess skin and fat. Then we'll lift it back and we're gonna remove the wishbone. So if you can feel the wishbone here. It's shaped like a Y, and you're just gonna wanna use a small knife and cut around it. And feel to make sure you've gotten it loose. And then we'll use a paper towel to pull it out so that we have a little bit more traction, because this can be a little slippery. But once you've got it loosened, you should be able to just pull it out. You can roast that off for the kids to break later. Now that we have our deconstructed turkey, I'm going to show you 2 different ways to cook your parts. One is in a roasting pan with aromatics such as onions, celery, carrots, garlic, and fresh herbs. This will help flavor the meat and give you some really tasty drippings for your gravy. The second option is to use a roasting pan with a rack inside of it. You would put your turkey parts on top of the rack so that the steam and drippings have a place to escape and you don't end up with a soggy bird. So I'm gonna put my dark meat on the rack. So our legs and thighs will go in here. And I'm gonna add the wings to this pan as well. And they still have some space between them so that things don't get too steamy. And then with my aromatics, I'm gonna cook my turkey breast. So cooking our parts in 2 different ways like this gives us more flexibility as far as oven temperature and cooking time. You want to use a thermometer to make sure the parts are all done at the proper temperature, but this way you don't have to worry about overcooking one part waiting for the other to finish. So before I pop these in the oven, I'm just going to give them a good season. Now if you were going to brine your bird, you could brine the parts. You could season it with an herb butter, anything that you like. This is just a spice blend that I enjoy. I like to get a little bit on both sides. And into the oven. Our turkey pieces have finished. Our turkey breast needed to cook for about 2 hours at 325 degrees. Whereas our thigh pieces only needed to cook an hour and a half, and our wings about an hour. That's the beauty of deconstructing your turkey. You can cook each piece to the ideal temperature for just the amount of time, instead of waiting for the larger pieces to cook through and overcooking the smaller ones. Cooking a deconstructed turkey results in both the white and the dark meat being prepared perfectly. Everything stays juicy and gets cooked to the perfect temperature. You can always ask your butcher for some help, or just buy the turkey parts that your family enjoys. For more information, don't forget to visit tasteofhome.com. Thanks for joining us.